So, I'm thinking this might be the beginning of the end of the Bay, or Hudson's Bay. Why am I saying that? Well, Hudson's Bay is Canada's oldest retailer. I think they've been around since the 1600s, actually. And for the first time ever in my life, I've seen some Hudson's Bay locations that are actually reducing their hours to the point that the hours they're keeping is shorter than the hours of the malls that they're in. I'll give you some examples. Like at White Oaks Mall in London, Ontario, Canada. There's a Hudson's Bay store there. And Monday through Friday, Hudson's Bay at White Oaks Mall in London is open from 10:30 till 8. Saturdays 10 till 8. And Sundays 11:30 to 5. Whereas the mall hours for White Oaks Mall are Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Sundays, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I've seen this at other shopping malls across Canada as well, too. Like the Bay Centre in Victoria, BC, as well as Mayfair Mall in Victoria, BC, Seven Oaks Mall in Abbotsford, BC, and even at Metropolis at Metrotown. All these stores that I just named, Hudson's Bay opens anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes after the rest of the mall opens, and they close anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes before the rest of the mall closes. A little bit surprising well, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I wasn't expecting to see it at Metropolis at Metrotown, because Metropolis at Metrotown, I would think that's one of the busiest shopping malls in Canada. It's currently the fourth largest shopping mall in Canada. It's a matter of fact, for several years, it was the second largest shopping mall in Canada. I believe they have upwards of 400 stores there. And it's a very busy mall. Like, I like to refer to it as being the Square One of Vancouver. And Square One, for those of you in other parts of Canada that might not be familiar, Square One's the second largest shopping mall in Canada. It's in Mississauga, Ontario, which is a suburb of Toronto. And it's always a very busy mall. So yeah, Hudson's Bay at a busy mall like Metropolis at Metrotown is keeping shorter hours than the rest of Metropolis at Metrotown. And I think I said Seven Oaks Mall in Abbotsford, BC as well too. But I've seen a number of this doesn't apply to all shopping malls. Like, I'm here at Micmac Mall in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, Canada. And this actual Bay location, Monday through Saturday, they keep the same hours as Micmac Mall, which is 9:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Saturday. And as a matter of fact, for Sunday, they actually keep longer hours than the rest of Micmac Mall. This particular Bay store is open from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays, whereas the rest of Micmac Mall is from noon till 5 p.m. on Sundays. So, I don't know. In my opinion, this is the beginning of the end of of Hudson's Bay. It might be the first step in many steps that they're going to take. Like, I call it death by 1,000 cuts. I think it's going to be a slow, prolonged death. And in my opinion, I'm thinking by the year 2030 that Hudson's Bay should be completely gone from Canada without a trace. And you know what? In my opinion, it's their own fault. I mean, Hudson's Bay has just made so many of the same mistakes that other failed retailers, like, do you remember Eaton's department store in Canada that failed in the 1990s, as well as Sears? That's in Canada and the US and possibly other countries. Well, I think Hudson's Bay is probably failing for the same reasons that Sears and Eaton's failed. They probably have too many stores around, and the stores they do have around are absolutely massive, massive, huge honking stores with massive amounts of inventory, massive amounts of staff. I know the Bay, they aren't as heavily staffed as they used to be, but they're still overstaffed in my opinion. So they have massive amounts of staff, massive amounts of inventory, massive amounts of floor space that require massive amounts of electricity and utilities to operate. And they're just pissing away money as far as I'm concerned. Like they're just very wasteful. They haven't tightened up their belts enough. And quite frankly, if it wasn't for old people, like people that are 50 and older, shopping at Hudson's Bay probably would have died at least 10 years ago. Yeah, they're just too big, and maybe they might have this mentality, or maybe they've had this mentality in the past that, oh, they're too big to fail. Well, nobody's too big to fail. A lot of us learned that back around 2008 when GM and Chrysler almost went belly up. Nobody's too big to fail. So Hudson's Bay, I guess they've just taken too long to trim the fat, and it's costing them now. I think they're going to be gone without a trace by the year 2030. Who knows? They might even leave sooner than that. But one thing that I believe is a certainty is that Hudson's Bay is on its way to failure because they failed to adapt to the demands of the population. They failed to evolve with shoppers, and they failed to trim fat, and they're just a wasteful company. I've also experienced a lot of bad customer service in that store as well too. I mean, yeah, of course they've got some great staff in there, some great workers, but they've also got some other workers that are just fucking assholes that have no business working with the general public. Like I remember one time when I was, I think, 14 years old, and I stopped at Hudson's Bay inside Square One Shopping Mall in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, after school. Still had my school bag with me. I just simply went to use the washroom. As soon as I came out of the washroom, some fucking asshole came up to me, demanding to see what was in my bag. I was a 14-year-old schoolboy at this time. I didn't know what my rights were and all that kind of stuff. So I figured, fine, I have nothing to hide. I'll show you what's in my bag. And I opened up my bag, and I said to him, "Do you want to see the rest of it? Do you want to see the other sections of this bag?" And he said, "No, no, no, that's okay, that's okay." So, yeah, quite frankly, I don't have any use for Hudson's Bay. Besides those points that I mentioned about them being wasteful and just using too much in the way of resources and not being efficient enough. I also find them to be grossly fucking overpriced. And yeah, I haven't shopped at Hudson's Bay since the 1990s. Like they're just a useless store to me. I have no use for them. Like they're way overpriced, and there's many other stores out there that can provide you better value. Why the hell should I go buy some shit from Hudson's Bay when I can go to somewhere like, say, Walmart or Giant Tiger and buy something similar of decent enough quality for like sometimes half the price or sometimes less than half the price of Hudson's Bay? Yeah, so I'm not going to miss them when they leave. I'll be quite honest. so. I don't know. My opinion, I think Hudson's Bay will be going adios in the not too distant future.